I'm Maceo Paisley, here at MoCAD with Allied Media Projects for Hoodwork, Neighborhood as Resistance.
Can you all hear me? Great. Ani buju, pamasanoko indigenous cause, makododem, wawiatanang and donjaba, nishabe kwendao. Greetings. My name is Rosebud Schneider, Rosebud Bear Schneider. I'm Bear Clan. I'm from here, from Wawiatanang, from Detroit, and I'm in Anishinaabe Kwe. On my father's side, I'm an enrolled citizen of the Loup-Coudray Band of Lake Superior Chippewas and a recognized descendant of Lac du Flambeau Band of Lake Superior Chippewas. My mother's family is Apache from the state of Michoacan. Both sets of grandparents relocated to Detroit area for the automotive industry. My parents both work for human rights here in the city and have decades of community work on their resume. I'm eternally grateful to be their daughter and granddaughter. They are the reason I'm here today. Wawiatanang is a special place. Historically, this was a meeting place for many tribes, and even now in its urban landscape, it remains a meeting place. Indigenous people from all over call Wawiatanang their home. For me, this is the only home I've ever known. I want to say miigwech to the organizers and Allied Media Project for inviting me to share space with you all today. I was asked to give a land acknowledgement, and you may have noticed that these actions have gained attention and notoriety in the last few years. Land acknowledgements are meant to not only honor the stolen land we stand on, but the ancestors that paved the way for us. Anywhere you stand on Turtle Island is and will forever be indigenous land. In this Great Lakes region where I call home, the Anishinaabe people have cared for this land for a millennia. When we speak about land, we must not think of it as a commodity, but more of a responsibility to care and respect all living beings. But it's not enough to just acknowledge that natives were here a long time ago and keep it moving. The real acknowledgement happens after everyone goes home and the lights turn off. The real acknowledgement happens in the way you speak about today's indigenous people, and not only our trials and tribulations, but our generational strength and resiliency. It happens in the way you care for the land and her inhabitants. So I encourage you to reach beyond this land acknowledgement and stand in solidarity with your indigenous relatives. Take time to understand the sordid history of the colonization and genocide. Support land and environmental justice movements. Support land back efforts. Support indigenous farmers, food producers, artists, and any of us doing the work to heal generations of trauma. Most of all, stand with us and commit to being a good ancestor and help us create a bright future for the next 7 generations. Again, miigwech for having me in this space with you.
AMP-Seeds is a program of Allied Media Projects. And I'm gonna have to read a couple of things because I always slip up. So, Allied Media Projects is an organization that supports a large network of people making media for liberation. For us, media includes all of the ways in which we communicate with the world, including traditional mediums such as radio, journalism, and video, but we also include contemporary, culturally relevant mediums such as memes, fashion, and some of the things that we'll see today in the visual art. We believe that our liberation is an ongoing process of personal, collective, and systematic transformation. We are a network of people and projects rooted in Detroit and connected to hundreds of other places across the globe. If you want to learn more about Allied Media Projects, please see our volunteers at the welcome table. So today you all are gathered for this event that's put on by the AMP-Seeds program. We started this program back in 2020 when we as a globe were all deeply affected by COVID-19. And AMP-Seeds put together a virtual program for folks to gather virtually to talk about some of the pressing issues that we were experiencing as a community. That grew into a seasonal program, and then this year, actually, hold on a second. Can I get like a show of hands who's ever been to an AMP Seeds virtual event? Okay, that's good to know. I wanted to see how many people came in to be in real life with us. So this is our first year that we got to do it in person, and I thank you all for gathering here. But one thing that we did learn is that we still have a climate crisis that we're dealing with, and so our first event was not only rescheduled once, it was canceled the second time. So I'm really sad, but I'm also really happy and thankful that all of you could be here today. That event was focusing on movement makers, dancers in the community, people who are looking at how we access movement no matter what no matter what our abilities are. Those groups have been invited to perform at our subsequent events. So if you are interested in seeing our groups that were scheduled for our last event that was canceled, please look at our website and look at the flyers out in the front to get more information about the next events that are coming up. All right, so before we get started, I wanted to do our land acknowledgement. Detroit is on Anishinaabe land and that of other indigenous people. The largest majority Black city in the US, Detroit has a long legacy of African diasporic global contributions and was once the stop of the Underground Railroad. Detroit is also the US city with the largest concentration of Arab Americans, a growing Latinx community, and a rich legacy of Asian American movements. To learn more about the land acknowledgement, please see native-land.ca. So today's event is really special to me because I've been watching all of these artists do a lot of different work in the community. I'm a poet, and one of my first poems was written at the Heidelberg Project when I was like 12 years old. And so for me, when we were talking about the ways that artists really change community, it was really important for me to think not only about how we've been seeing it happen recently, but how Detroiters have always been involved in really creating the images that they want to see in their community, and how artists are at the center of that oftentimes. But I'm not here to talk or moderate. My only job was to welcome y'all, tell y'all about how we were trying to do it, and then turn it over to our wonderful moderator, Scheherazade. So let me introduce her. Scheherazade Washington Parrish is a writer, artist, moderator, and muse with a background in poetry. She studied psychology at Wayne State University and is currently a program manager with us at Allied Media Projects. As a writer, Scheherazade works ranges from personal narrative to formal verse, deconstructing societal, personal, and political concepts of duty and family. Her work has been published in journals as a part of the Detroit Neighborhood Guidebook Anthology, as well as murals and large-scale visual artwork. She has taught countless of writers as a writer-in-residence at Inside Out Literary Arts Project, creative writing instructor with Y Arts Detroit, and youth development coach with the Oakland Avenue Artists Coalition. She bad, y'all. Give it up to Scheherazade Washington Parrish. Thank you.
Ooh, I didn't know I did all that. Thank you, Nandi. Thank y'all for coming. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm really excited to be able to hold conversation with the heavy hitters in the art world. And so I would like to bring to the stage Bryce Detroit. Bryce Detroit is the multimodal Afrofuturist artist, activist, griot, designer, and pioneer of entertainment justice. As a national award-winning music producer and curator, Bryce Detroit utilizes his social practice to demonstrate the power of using music, entertainment, arts. Bryce is the recipient of numerous awards, including 2020 Harvard University Council of the Arts, 2019 New Museum Ideas Cities Fellow. He is a 2017 Knights Art Challenge Award winner. I could go on and on, but I'm gonna let him tell you about himself and the good work that he's doing. I would also like to bring up Asia Hamilton. Within the Detroit community, Asia advocates for women and non-binary artists of color in her Northwest community throughout her gallery and her work as commissioner on the City of Detroit Entertainment Commission. As a native of the Prairie St. Mary's neighborhood, Asia has witnessed firsthand how revitalization efforts in Detroit have largely been overlooked and how they have overlooked the Northwest Side. Asia is the proprietor of the Norwest Art Gallery in Detroit, and also Woman House Detroit, which was an amazing incubator for women artists. I'm gonna let her tell you more about that. In the meantime, please welcome Tyree Guyton. Born and raised in Detroit on the street that gives its name to his most famous work, the Heidelberg Project, and Tyree has been creating art for over 45 years. Yeah, right? An essential component of Guyton's work is his commitment to social change, and he has leveraged his art on Heidelberg Street to redress inequities caused by racism, economic disparity, politics, and the systematic inability of the government and other support agencies to help Detroit's poorest citizens. So I cut the bio because I want to hear from you all a little bit more than I want to read off of the paper. I hope that's okay. I will make sure that you all have information on how to learn more about them. I'll give you website information, or they'll give you website information. But let's go. I'm excited. I've been, thinking about this for a little while. You are all landmarks in art. As I see it, like landmarks in Detroit art as like institutions, right? Tyree Guyton is the Heidelberg Project. Tyree Guyton is an institution. And so I want to first just get into a little bit of what you're doing now. We know who you are. So I want to know, like, what are you doing now? Where is your art going now? What's been going on? I haven't seen you, Tyree, for a number of years. Bryce, I see you more regularly, but it's always good to see you in Asia as well. So let's kick it off. Like, what are you doing right now?
Wonderful. Right now, today, the world is my canvas.
Okay. We've expanded. What do you mean? Tell me a little bit more. Like, what are you putting in the world? What are you putting on your canvas right now?
Well, this coming Saturday, I'm on my way to Baltimore.
Okay.
I'm going to go see my wife. She's the director of the American Visionary Museum.
Okay, yeah. This is a family mission.
So when I said that the whole world is my canvas, I knew early on I wanted to travel around the world promoting my art. That's happening.
Okay. Goals. Yes. Bryce, talk to us a little bit about what's going on with you.
That's what's up. First off, peace, everyone. How are we doing? How are we feeling right now in real life? That's what's up. That's what's up. Heart, hands, what up, Mike? So for me, there is a world of stuff going on, and this is me approaching this answer in the most present and authentic way. For sure, can talk about like on the entertainment side. I'm going to be performing at Sidewalk Festival July 29th. That's happening. Getting ready for July 28th. Before that, we're doing our first hip hop show of the season at the Garage. Shout out my brother Kari Frazier, Joe Black. I'm getting ready to perform in August. So like, yeah, the entertainment side, performance side, things are happening. The visual arts side, of course, I'm continuing to advance the Roadwork project. One series is the Hood Closed to Gentrifiers, but there are other series, eyeballing some more gallery exhibitions. The biggest thing that's really going on for me, though, has been this recontextualizing of my own practice, for real. And a part of that has also been me reconnecting with the core loves that brought me to the work that I'm doing. The reason why that has been such a poignant, pivotal moment for me on my journey the last couple of months is there was this recognition around March that, one, it was coming from this internal feedback like, yo, Bryce, you don't feel like you're doing enough. Oh, we gotta wrap this shit up? Okay. My bad.
No, I just wanted to, we've got work. We've got images of your work. And so I just thought it would be nice to have that there.
Cool.
While
That's what's up. Super shout out, one of my dear friends, longtime collaborator, Melinda Anderson. We have some dope stuff planned. But yeah, back to this little anecdote. So having this internal feedback of you're not doing enough professionally, yet personally, there continues to be this evolving richness and really clear points of development and growth. And it's been really coming from me rooting more deeply as Baba at home to my daughters, as well, really uplifting, leaning into the fact that Bryce as a provider in his neighborhood, Bryce as one who protects, as a custodian of the neighborhood. Like, Bryce, you're Baba for real. And that is the overarching frame for everything in your life, including your practice. So reorienting with this notion of leadership, taking it out of this, this quasi-capitalist settler colonial framework, where like you're founding something, you're leading something, taking it out of that context and really grounding myself in the ancestral context. When we're talking about nation building, well, who are the people who build the nations? Who are the custodians in diasporic African culture? The mamas and the babas. So I'm a ... right there.
that's what's up. Thank you. So Asia, tell me a little bit about, you've got moves, you've got big changes. Tell me a little bit about what's going on.
You said I got moves. What kind of moves?
You making moves.
Oh, I don't even really think they be moves like that. But I guess they are. What have I been doing? Well, I've been running Norwest Gallery. Right now we're in the middle of a series of exhibitions that are dedicated to Detroit artists, particularly Detroit Black artists, and most of them are emerging artists too. We want to use that space to be able to help kind of cultivate their career, give them some exposure. But Detroit artists are just fabulous. Like exposure where they pop out. That's my new thing. My niece taught me that one.
Pop out.
They be popping out. So I just been really, just I'm glued to the gallery is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm also associate curator with Sidewalk, so I've been working with them. I'm excited about that. So,
Moves being made.
little moves, little something.
So look, meat of the conversation. Thank you for sharing with us. I am very curious about art as an artist, but also as a member of the community. I'm in the hood, and I have witnessed art come in and change communities. The beautification, the revitalization of communities. But what that really means, it never benefits the communities that they move into. And so I'm very excited to talk to you three in particular because you have managed to highlight art, hold space for artists, and protect your communities through that art. And that's something that a lot of us need to know how to do, right? I am unclear. I am often curious as to whether or not the artist understands their role in the gentrification process, right? When we talk about murals, like mural festivals, and the art is beautiful, that's undeniable, but what happens after that art goes up? What happens to the communities that host these festivals? So we've seen what happened in the Eastern Market. I don't even know half of the stores there anymore, and I grew up there, right? Heidelberg is untouched. From the last time I've been there, that is untouched. It has not come in and been developed by other folk. The Norwest Gallery and even the Woman House Gallery. And I thought it was amazing that the kids in the neighborhood are like, it's the museum house, because they associate this house in this neighborhood with, hey, there's a museum here. So not only are you providing access to community members and the things that you are doing benefit the communities that you're in, it feels as though you are making a very bold statement, you're not welcome here with your developments. And I want to know how this came about. Did you know that that's what you were doing when you set out? Was it a happy, not accident, but did you look back and realize that this was a facet of what you were doing in your work?
Me, okay. This is something, so Norwest and all of these things came, very organically. Originally, it was me as an artist trying to create a space for me in my community, and knowing that my footprint would allow more people to come in. As an artist, I went through my artist stage and all of the, trying to get my work in galleries and trying to, just really put myself out there as an artist. And I got a lot of pushback, or I got, wasn't nobody checking for me. So I wanted to create a space, where, artists could feel safe from this elitist art community. They could actually come in and feel loved, feel this energy that they are welcome and that they're celebrated. I wanted people to feel that energy, so I had to create it, So why not do it in my neighborhood? I had to come all the way downtown from the West Side in order to, to experience art. I wanted it to be right down the street from my house. And so that's where I created it. Now, I did have a couple of spaces in North End. I was part of North End Studios, and we had, now is the building with the D earring, but it was, it was North End Studios originally, back in the day. And, we got pushed out of 3 spaces down here after putting furnaces and all kinds of crazy stuff in the buildings. I was like, I need to go somewhere where I know I'm safe. And that was my neighborhood. I know that I'm safe over there. So.
Tyree, you were born on Heidelberg. So how did this come about from growing up, going to school, to I'm going to protect my neighborhood through my craft?
You know, as I sit here listening, I remember being a young artist over at the College of Creative Studies. And I was so happy when I met Charles McGee. And Charles McGee said to me, he said for me to go inside of myself and find me. And when I did that, I remember that day, 1986. It was a beautiful day. It was April 6th. The sun was shining. I was standing on the front porch, and I had this epiphany. I was able to see the possibilities of what could be done in that community. And I want to say this, too, because it's so important. You need some pain. No pain, no gain. The Heidelberg Project has been around for 37 years. And I can say this, I'm looking at all these grown folks here. I'm in a zone now, and I'll say this, and I'm really glad to have these wonderful artists sitting up here with me. I'm in a zone that's deeper than sex, where you understand there's no limit when it comes to the imagination and creativity. You know, when I think about gentrification and everything that's happening in the world, art is my medicine. That paintbrush is my magic wand. When you make your mind up to do something, and you make your mind up to be unstoppable, now my question to the audience is, who's going to stop you? So that's where I'm at. Hallelujah.
Praise dances. So,
Sure.
I am aware that AMP as an organization can be looked at as a gentrifier, right? We have moved into a community. As an organization, moving into a community, asking you, how do you care for community? How do you repair community? How do you repair harm or perceived harm in a community? How do you get the community to believe you and support you and know that they're going to be protected by you and not like it's not another, song and dance. It's not another, oh, we're going to promise this and oh, this didn't happen. Like, how do you gain the trust of the places that you are going? Now, I realize it's different because you are at home and protecting home, right? So what would you say to someone coming into your community? What are the ground rules? Like you come into the hood, it's a rule. You got rules.
Yes.
What are the rules?
We'd love to jump on this. So, I'm originally from University District, that neighborhood. So that's between 6 and 7 Mile, Livernois to whatever, Pontchartrain, or Fairway, actually. So my first time being in the North End, it was 2009. And it was me because of this woman. She told me, like, yo, got this community gardening project. It just so happened that farming was an area of activity that I was super interested in 2009. And primarily from this point of ancestral perspective. When thinking about myself as like, yo, Bryce, you see yourself as this king, you see yourself in this particular way, you want to be one who provides at scale. What are the essential things that one of this stature would provide, though? Food, clothing, and shelter. You got to be able to provide food, clothing, and shelter for your people. Well, can you provide food for yourself, Bryce? I mean, it's one thing to create opportunities for people to get paid, and then they can go buy food themselves. But can you grow food? So it's like, all right, bet. Let me start off on my king development, by actually practicing growing food. So that got me in the North End. it was this community project that, this community garden project, shout out Halima Cassels, some of you all may know her. But yeah, that was 2009. Within the next 10 months, had already begun to build relationships in the neighborhood because Bryce was putting his hands in the dirt, because Bryce was working. We came in service. Yes, it was self-serving because a brother wanted to develop his agriculture skills, yet it was literally me coming into a neighborhood like, let me put my hands in the soil, let me help to beautify based on the direction you all are going. The next farm project that would end up meeting would be what's now the Oakland Avenue Urban Farm. Super shout out Jerry and Billy Hebron. So this anecdote is simply me naming that it was Bryce coming into a new neighborhood, even as a native Detroiter, acknowledging that each neighborhood has its own cultural identity, cultural legacy, cultural production. And as much as we are Detroit, we also acknowledge, I mean, on some gang shit, just to take it there for a second, it's easy for those of us who actually lived through the 90s, it's easy for us to have this cultural politic of respect your hood, respect each other's hood. Before, it was coming from a gang perspective, but in real life, that's an ancestral principle. Respect the tribe, respect the village, because the village has customs, the village has behaviors and ways, and as diasporic African people, we're all about relationship. So we innately want to be in right relationship with each other. So, one, come in service, in genuine, authentic service, not some old honorarium stipend service. That's transactional, and we can smell that shit. You know what I mean? Bryce know how to talk, so this is me also like putting the brakes on myself. But coming in service is one thing. I do want to touch a little bit on the first question that you asked. What got me feeling the way and having my relationship with the North End that Bryce does is similar to Asia. On a personal level, a brother needed his own space. His own spaces for all of the different parts of the music, entertainment, creation, the manufacturing process. We need spaces to create for low to no cost. We need small, medium, and large scale places to record and produce. We need venues to perform and promote. So Bryce is on some shit like, Detroit is known for having a hyper-local black music economy that was globally distributed. And it still is globally distributed. In the 60s, we had Motown. In the 80s and 90s, we have underground resistance. So we still have this legacy. For me, it was corny to imagine that the only way that Bryce could have a robust music career was going to LA or New York. That shit was corny to me. So after being in the North End for just a couple months in 2009, began to learn about the rich history of the North End, in particular, the black music legacy. There were buildings that are still on Oakland Avenue where that music economy lived. So for me, it's like, yo, this shit is important. Not only is it important, this is the DNA of this neighborhood. So there's a pride in me as a music professional for having that DNA in this neighborhood, and there is a desire to want to approach this conversation around development from the perspective of, well, what if we are looking at development based on what are the cultures that are indigenous to this place? If music is indigenous to my neighborhood, perhaps that could be a lens through which I'm projecting on how to activate and beautify new spaces. That's a real ... 'cause that's like 7 minutes worth of talking. So, yeah.
We only have about 30 left.
There we go. My bad.
So I want to talk a little bit more to Asia, more to Tyree. I'm digging the socks. See what you did there. I'm curious to know how you got your community to buy into the Heidelberg Project and like their homes are now part of this project. I remember when it started, and it was like, it's an eyesore and all of these things. I'm old enough to remember when it started. So how do you get the neighbors, how do you get folk in the neighborhood to say, oh yeah, you can use the house. Go ahead and do, like what type of relationship do you build? How do you build that type of relationship such that the community willingly becomes a part of the process?
I would say to you, the first thing that I learned, you have to start with yourself first. You believe in you, you get other people to believe in you. I also found out that it takes time, and I keep a clock with me all the time. In time, you can do all things. And so working with my neighbors, a lot of the neighbors didn't know that they didn't know. So let's talk about it. Action speaks louder than words. It took time, it took patience, believing in myself, also believing in my community. I grew up there. And I said to myself 37 years ago, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it right here in my community. It's kind of like, you know, being married, and you have to take care of home first. So Heidelberg is my home. It's my community. And nobody can do it better than I can.
Period.
Say that. So, Asia, how about, like, I know that, again, Woman House was an incubator within the community, like the neighbors, the kids. How did you go about letting them know what was happening? You have, like, there were concerts that went on in the backyard. How do you, like, get the neighbors to buy into that so that they're not lodging noise complaints and it's too loud? And, like, how do you make that happen?
Again, it is the community that I grew up in. Woman House, you know, is the house that I grew up in. So Miss Hayes is still across the street. Mr. Wooten is still next door. Most of the people my age on the block was my age 40 years ago. So, you know, I know that community very well. So, and I've always been some type of artist, you know, even as a kid, I was different, you know.
So what do you say to the newcomer? What do you say to the newcomer on the block?
To the newcomers on the block?
Mm-hmm.
I just let them watch. You know, they'll get it. Everybody is not going to celebrate. I mean, you know, when we had Woman House, we had like 200 people, you know, come to St. Mary's and Finkel, you know, and they were people from all nations. Yep. You know, it's a predominantly black neighborhood. So they was like, who are these people? Where are they coming from? You know? But, you know, and then, you know, we had a couple of people be like, I don't want nobody parking in front of my house, or, you know, I don't got time for this, you know?
Right.
But eventually, when they saw the buzz and they saw, like, you know, when they brought their kids down there, or when the younger kids was like, I want to go check it out. I think the older generation of people who was like, I don't want people in front of my house, they started to be like, well, it might not be that bad then. You know, they'll eventually, people will get on board, and if they don't, then I don't know. Maybe I need some advice on that, because I just do what I have to do.
People don't get on board.
I want to add to that. I sit here tonight, and I'm looking out there at the audience, and I saw the importance of bringing the world to the Heidelberg Project. We have had people from 194 countries to come and visit the Heidelberg Project. I took in consideration in talking with my neighbors, I said, what do they need? And you know what they needed? Money. How do you bring money? And I'm talking about the business of art.
Yeah.
Art as a business. I remember meeting with Dennis Archer one year, and he said to me, I was talking about the community, and he said to me, how do you define your community today, in today's world? And I was talking about Heidelberg, and he said, your vision needs to be bigger. How do I define my community today? Well, I start at home, but the world is my community. Now that's what I'm preaching.
I receive that. I do. I take it. We have about 15 minutes. And I usually am very selfish with moderation because I am interested and I want to have this conversation and y'all get to watch. However, in these last 15 minutes, I am going to turn some questions over to the audience. And so if there are any questions, I think we may have time for about 3 or 4 really good questions.
Okay, we'll start here.
Hey y'all, thank you for being here and holding space. Scheherazade, you mentioned newcomers coming to a space, but one thing I'm curious about is like, sometimes it feels like the arts have become like a young person's game, where like all these young people are getting attention, have the energy. How do y'all create space for elders who are trying to get into the space, trying to get into the arts, maybe weren't supported in the arts as they were growing up, to be able to engage in these spaces and just kind of like tap into what they may have missed out on coming into the space, like as these grants come about and all this stuff?
In the audience, there's a gentleman, Dr. Hoshea Love, got his hands up. He's a guest artist here. Stand up, please. He's 84.
I'm 84.
And let me say this, he's a badass photographer. 84.
Boom.
That's how you do it. You bring them in.
So, yes, being intentional about inviting is one thing, but for those of us who convene, create space, okay, I'm going to approach this from an indigenous perspective first. The first priority is for me to make space for my people. Now, the reality is, and this is an ancestral cultural reality, when a person of diasporic African ancestry, when we make space for ourselves, we end up making space for the entire world. Our history and ancestry has already proven that. So this is me being very literal, speaking very specifically and on some real shit. So the bottom line is, for me, to be grounded in my reason for even making space in the first place, which usually is a super personal, very sacred reason. Because, one, as a diasporic African, it's in my DNA, but two, because of this real attribute of Detroit, which is we're a familial culture, then it's easy for us to, we do a thing for us and know that we want somebody else who may be similar to us to benefit from this thing too. The spirituality, the spirit in which we imbue our objects, in which we imbue our spaces, that literally does radiate outward. If you've ever come to the garage in the North End, raise your hand. That's what's up. Now let me ask you all some real shit. Those of y'all who've been to the garage, does the energy of the garage speak for itself? You can, like you go up in a joint, you can feel it. That's because Bryce has been so intentional since 2014 in making this a space that radiates the love and the divinity in which this space was created, and that in and of itself is an energetic invitation.
We'll take another question, but I want to remind everybody, if you're speaking, please speak into a mic. It is an accessibility thing for everyone to be able to hear what's going on, and we also have people filming, and we want to make sure we capture everything for our audiences abroad.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Janelle Robinson. I'm an arts manager. Arts management is what I do. And I had 2 questions, so you can choose which one you want to answer. I was very inspired by you, Mr. Guyton, just visiting Heidelberg. It was very touching to me to go over there. And for all of you, I'm curious about if you wanted to talk about perseverance, because I also was a young person and saw how crazy people were resistant against the Heidelberg Project when I was a kid, and then all of a sudden everybody's, they love it, So it was kind of weird to see that transition from a child growing up in Detroit to now as an adult. But I also wondered if any of you wanted to comment on the business side of the arts, like how do you take what you love and, like you talked about what Mayor Dennis Archer said, like turning it into a sustainable financial lifestyle. I'm very much a strong advocate of that, but I would love to hear whatever you guys, either perseverance or making money. So either one. Thank you.
Okay, I'll speak to the business side of it. It's really just a matter of, marketing yourself. It's so simple, right? Just putting yourself out there, social media. And then I'm like, did I have social media? We had MySpace. Because I'm just thinking about my journey, when I was at Columbia, I was, posting. I had did this whole thing, like my own little street art thing. I'm a photographer. So I did like cyanotypes and palladium. I was really heavy into alternative processing, and I had started like posting my cyanotypes all around the Chicago area. Just randomly, just putting myself out there and just getting involved, as much as I could, so that people knew me, and so that they could know my work and know my worth. So when I moved back here, I moved back to Detroit. I started a collective of artists called the Dopest Ethiopians. Nobody remembers that. We just Dopest Ethiopians. That's old school. This was back in the day. Cafe Mahogany. You know what I'm saying? We was back in the day. So yeah, we had our little collective, and we started just anywhere, like coffee shops. I remember the Biegas Gallery downtown. We went and asked her, can we show in your work? Anywhere we could put our work, we did. And that's just a matter of the business. Now, money. How we gonna make some money? It's not, I didn't have no money starting Norwest Gallery. $0, okay? I'm gonna tell you how God works. I saw that space. It was a tax office. It was a mess. And I said, I'm not fixing up no more spaces that I don't own. So I walked away from it for a year. And then somebody from the Grandmont Rosedale Development Corporation contacted me and asked me if I was still interested in that space because they had a grant to develop it for a cultural component. I said, yeah, I'm still interested in it. I didn't have to pay anything to put that together. And I feel like when you are aligning yourself with what you are supposed to be doing, it'll come to you, everything that you need. Even with Woman House, after my mom passed, you want me to keep it moving quickly? Brief and powerful, okay. Even with that, after my mom passed, I'll use my house as a creative space. I wanted to originally just I was going to use it as a residency so that I could have women artists of color take care of Norwest so that I could have break. And, that ended up turning into something even more greater than what I had originally imagined, actually transforming that whole space into an art space. And so I'm saying, like, if you have that passion and that will, and you keep moving in that direction, it'll start to prosper.
I want to say this as briefly as possible. So one, on the perseverance tip, if, when there is an idea or a thing that you really, really want to see in the world, and it really, really is not in the world yet, that is its own fuel in a very real way. There are times when we may have a genuine spark, and that spark is accompanied with some fire, a compelling, so we like, oh shit, okay, I'm excited to do this thing. We start doing the thing, and then at some point in the process, we acknowledge that maybe the energy is not all the way there for us. Sometimes that's an indicator that this thing that you did get excited about, maybe you just care more if it's in the world. Maybe you don't care to bring it in the world, though. So yet when it's something, when you ask yourself this question, do you want to see it in the world, or is it really important for you to bring it into the world? If the answer is, it's really important for me to bring it, then perseverance no longer becomes a concept. Only thing that you're moving on is the will to manifest it. And in real life, that will be the only thought that occupies your entire shit. So that's on a perseverance tip. On the money side, sharing from my personal thing. One is Detroiters, we are industrious. Just the cultural DNA of us is to be industrious, for us to imagine and create a way to make some money. So boom. If you approach your revenue streams with the same imagination that you approach your practice with, then the same magic in which the ideas come, then there'll be some real ass inspiration on how you can make money outside of the convention. One for me was, it started off by me volunteering with social justice and environmental justice organizations. Shout out Detroit Summer, shout out East Michigan Environmental Action Council. But it was me putting myself in those spaces because Bryce had skills that he wanted to bring to the movement. And then by being in those spaces and then being able to draw connections like, bro, you as a record producer, that actually correlates to this role in the movement space of cultural organizer. Because everything that a cultural organizer does, which is get the talent, come up with the vision, create the campaign, implement and execute the shit, like develop and implement it, everything that a producer does, a cultural organizer does. So Bryce, you can start to make your own connections with this world and see opportunities for how your professional skill sets are actually portable in this space. But that's going back to the imagination though. So, ...
It's you. ... Proud of you. Did you have something to say, Tyree?
Yeah, to the young lady over there, what I have come to understand, there's the art side of it, and then there's the business side of it. I spent time in Switzerland because I wanted to understand the business side of art. I would say it takes perseverance. It takes crossing your T's and dotting your I's. And I'll say this because this is very important. If your work is good, real damn good, the world is going to come to you.
Amen.
Those are facts. That's a fact.
Other thing I came to understand that whatever you do in life, you need a team. And behind you, we have the Heidelberg team back there. Them beautiful folks back there, that's part of my team, them folks right there.
Where y'all at?
Yeah.
Hey, Heidelberg team.
So you need a team. If you believe it, you can do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you for your time. Thank you for answering my questions. Thank you for answering audience questions. I am going to wrap this up by saying thank you all for coming. It is amazing to have so many people interested in this talk. I see like so many artists and cultural institutions in the room right now. So shout out to Motown Museum. Shout out to Marsha Music. Like there are so many rich like institutions of art that you are sitting next to. Is that Lauren Hood? Yeah. So I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank MoCAD for extending the space. Shout out to Seeds and the whole team. That is my time with you.
We're here at MoCAD, where we just had the Hoodwork Neighborhood as Resistance panel, moderated by Scheherazade Washington Parrish, with panelists Asia Hamilton, Bryce Detroit, and Tyree Guyton. Every one of our panelists got it out the mud. They're native Detroiters working in their neighborhood to build wealth and community through art. So in the conversation, questions were asked: how do we push against gentrification, bring and continue to bring art and culture to our communities in a way that uplifts and continues to build and rebuild our neighborhoods?